is Dr. Mike Skinner. I'm a reader in virology in the Division of Infectious Diseases at Imperial College, London. Monkeypox is a member of a small group of poxviruses. We call them orthopoxviruses, which includes the most famous poxvirus, smallpox, which was a scourge of mankind over hundreds of years until it was eradicated by vaccination in 1980. So since about 2018, we've started seeing a small number of isolated sporadic cases in the UK and internationally. All of these cases were linked to travel, to recent travel from West Africa, particularly Nigeria. So this year it looked as though we were going to see a similar pattern. But then things changed with the identification of a couple of clusters which were linked epidemiologically. But unusually, neither of those clusters had any travel links with West Africa. So this concerned the authorities and brought the pressure on them to try and identify the original source, if you like, which one would expect would have travel history. So we've all become very familiar with SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID over the last couple of years. So it's probably worth considering how monkeypox compares with COVID. In terms of its transmission, monkeypox can transmit in a number of ways. Generally, if you have contact with an infectious person, the contact needs to be close, it needs to be intimate. It can transmit by air, but only over very limited distances, because it's really down to the droplets that can be shed during coughs and sneezes. We don't expect to see onward transmission really from families, except through sexual relations and from clinical situations. Where we have to be careful and where people need to be vigilant is where they are members of networks, effectively, of serial close contact, close and intimate contact, which can allow onward progression stepwise, in a stepwise manner from case to case. So the monkeypox infection is much more prolonged than we all got used to seeing with COVID. After you've been infected, there'll be a period of several days where you won't know you're infected. The first indication you'll have will be fairly general symptoms of malaise, headache, some fever, muscle aches. But what really gives monkeypox and other pox diseases away is the appearance of the skin lesions, which initially will look possibly like other lesions, but fairly quickly will become quite distinctive, and they go through a fairly defined progression, ending up with scabs that will eventually be shed. So the good news is that we have ways of helping people who are infected with monkeypox. We have vaccines and we have antivirals. They're modern-day versions of the vaccine that we use to eradicate smallpox. Experience with smallpox taught us that the vaccine can be used before you're exposed to the virus, but also for a short period after you've been exposed. Monkeypox is a much more complex virus. It has a genome which is much longer, and it's made of DNA, unlike the genome of SARS-CoV-2, which is RNA. The size and complexity of the virus probably goes some way to explain why it is much more resistant in the environment, which poses problems in decontamination. The longer genome size makes it more complicated for genome sequencing, which is useful for establishing chains of transmission between individuals, and also helping us keep an eye on the virus in case it should develop variants, such as we saw occur during the COVID pandemic. But it's worth pointing out that the DNA genome of these poxviruses means that they're generally much more stable than the RNA genome of the coronaviruses. So we don't expect variants to crop up at anything like the same rate.